Welcome to one and all, 6th day of the month of Tevet, 5777. Hope everybody had a meaningful Hanukkah last week. Today we are, besides for our class, keeping our motto, keeping our banner high for the sake of heaven, and to remove the divine presence from the exile. Today's class also classes will be in coinciding with a tremendous Jewish leader of the Jewish people, tremendous woman of valor, his wife, Rabbi Binyamin and Talia Kahana, who were murdered around this time of year. So, going back 17 years. So, these words should be for the Ilui Nishmatam, for the uplifting of their precious souls. And it's very apropos. The subject of today's class is, I'm really excited about it. It's really just like dawned on me in the last week. And, hold on, that's all I have to say, because it's really a surprise. It was a surprise to me. I hope it's a surprise to you. The title of the class, drum roll, boom, is Jewish militancy, activism, zealousness for dummies. This is the class. You want to know how to be a Jewish militant? You want to know the source? You want to know the boundaries? You want to know how to be an activist? You want to have mentors to look up to? This is the class for you. If you fit into any of these categories, and even if you don't, you should be fitting. You should fit yourself into it, because this is what we're here for. Okay, now when we speak about the subject of activism, when we speak about militancy, Jewish zealousness, some traditional, it's a funny word using when you talk about the subject, like, is there anything traditional about Jews being militants? Like, whoa. But we'll use the word. It's a real picanty kind of word. You think of perhaps maybe Abraham a little bit when he broke the idols of his father in his younger days, or perhaps going to fight against the 4 kings that had kidnapped his nephew Lot. We think about Shimon and Levi, of course, in the city of Shechem. We think about, in Egypt, we think about Moses. We think about Nachshon ben Aminadav jumping into the Red Sea. We think about Hur standing up to the nation of Israel during the time of the sin of the golden calf. And perhaps Joshua and Caleb standing up to the Jewish people, times of the sending of the spies. And last but not least, Pinchas, Eliyahu, kind of like the same team. Okay, those are the traditional founders of Jewish activism, militancy, vengeance. But now we will introduce an amazing character. He's very undercover. He might be there with his sunglasses. I'll give you a lot of guesses. I don't think you're going to be able to answer it. Okay, now hold on to your seat here. We don't have insurance here yet. today's featured figure of the Torah, of the Bible, is none other than Reuven. Reuven, the son of Jacob, son of Israel. You got that? You heard right. You don't have to clean out your ears. You heard it correctly. So we're going to take a class or two on this tremendous subject, and somebody that is overlooked as a forefather, as a flag bearer of Jewish activism, Jewish militancy, and Jewish zealousness, none other than Reuven. So let's take it from the top. Very interesting. This also most people would never be able to answer. If you pose a question, how many times is Reuven mentioned? You know, how many people, you're not really going to think too many times. But an amazing fact is that Reuven is introduced in the portion of the week of Vayetze. He's once again comes in on the next portion, Vayishlach. He's there in Vayeshev. He's there for Miketz. He takes a break during Vayigash, and he appears again in Vayechi. It's an amazing thing. So he's in 6 out of 7 portions of the week, 6 out of the last 7. He's there. He's a main character. He's a big doer. And let's take it from the top. First, we're going to mention what Reuven is involved in, which portions, which stories is he involved in, and then we'll come back and we'll look at each one. Number 1, when Reuven steps into this world, it's not in the regular way we would expect the first son of Jacob, the holy Jacob. The forefather who is called holy is Jacob. We say that every morning in the prayers. Now, Abraham, not Isaac, no, but Jacob. How is Reuven brought to the world? Jacob is spending time at the White House or the house of Lavan, and they make an agreement that after 7 years, for 7 years of working for Lavan, Jacob will marry his choice, which is of course Rachel, even though Rachel is younger. So they have this big wedding, and how do you say it? It's a wedding that you don't see every day. Pardon the pun. It's a wedding you don't see every day because Lavan had all the candles, all the light turned off. So you couldn't see anything. So it's one of those weddings that you don't see every day. And then he pulls a fast one. He pulls a fast one on Jacob. And all of a sudden, he sees that he's with none other than Leah. And from that engagement, from that relationship, the night of the wedding, comes out Reuven. Now think of this, this is mind-boggling. We know that there, according to the Talmud, when a person is interested in having marital relations, there are 9 things that you have to be very, very careful not to fall into. Various subject matters that you have to be careful. One of the 9 is that you have to be thinking about about your wife, about your husband. You cannot be thinking about, God forbid, someone else. Another man, another woman, some movie that you happen to watch, a television show, something on the computer. You're thinking about that celebrity, whether it's male or female. So here, lo and behold, Jacob is seemingly, he's thinking about when he's having marital relations with what he thinks is Rachel, so his mind is concentrating on Rachel. But who's really there in the room? It's really Leah. So this is problematic. This is one of the 9 prohibitions. And from this, a person has children who are not pure. There's spiritual defects to such children for doing one prohibition. How much more so if there's a few involved? So this is really unbelievable. I mean, this is starting life really on the left foot. But that's how Reuben comes into the world, kind of handicapped into the world. Next time we see, this was in the portion of the week, Vayetze. Afterwards, we meet up again with Reuven. This time, he's approximately 6 or 7 years old, a kid. And we see that this is also in the portion of Vayetze, we see that he goes out in the summer months, and when the wheat is ripe, so this is like end of spring, summer time, and he's looking for a certain plant that helps a woman bear children. There are special, we know that how God created the world, and there are special herbs or plants, flowers that Hashem made them in order to help many illnesses. In fact, we have in Elon More, we have a community of converts from Peru, and many times I've walked with some of them around the mountains of Elon More, and they point out this plant or this plant or some other things that are growing, and they mention that this is good for colds, this is good for coughs, this is good for different ailments. Really amazing how they know this stuff, and there are people like that in the world. So the little boy, Reuven, he's upset that his mother, after having 4 children, it's been a while, she stopped giving birth. So he goes out and he's looking for this various special plant in order that his mother, Leah, can take this internally, and God willing, she'll be able to have children. So this is the second time we meet up with Reuven. Now that's pretty responsible for a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, sending him out. He's involved with what's happening in the family. His mother has stopped giving birth, and little Reuven is going out to help the situation. I mean, that is broad shoulders here. Responsibility, big time for a little kid. Next, after the portion of Vayetze, we have Vayishlach. We see an astonishing verse. It says, God forbid, but it looks like it says in the Torah, that after Rachel passes away, Reuven then is zealous for his mother's honor, Leah, and he notices that Jacob plans on moving his abode, his home, from Rachel, who's no longer in this world, to the midwife of Rachel, which is Bilhah. And this is really disturbing to who? To Reuven. We don't see the reaction of Shimon. We don't see the same reaction of Levi. We don't see Yehuda. Those are heavy hitters. We see Reuven again. We see Reuven. He's zealous for the honor of his mother. And he was certain that now that Rachel, who Jacob originally worked for, now that she's no longer there, he was sure that Jacob was going to move into the home, the tent of his mother Leah, and not into the midwife of Rachel. This was too much for him. So the Torah says, seemingly, that Reuven slept, God forbid, with the midwife Bilhah. Okay, moving right along here. The portion after that, Vayeshev, we have Joseph's brothers who are infuriated with his behavior. Joseph's coming to Jacob, to the father, and telling him all kinds of evil deeds that the brothers are supposedly doing, instead of coming to them and saying, listen, guys, I have a problem with you. He skips over that part. He skips over that part and he goes straight to Jacob, to the father. So they're infuriated with him. And they decide that they have to do something with him. So there's a various dispute. The Shimon and Levi, they're voting to kill Joseph. And there's Yehuda, who suggests selling him into slavery. And then, lo and behold, once again, stepping up to the plate, as always, Reuven. He's getting up there to the plate, and he says, listen, let's not sell him, and let's not kill him. We're going to place him into a pit. Place him into a pit. His idea was that later on he would come by and he would save his brother from the other brothers. So of course when he comes back, there's nobody in the pit, because, little did he know that the brothers had sold Joseph into slavery. But that was his plan. So, credits due here. The Torah credits Reuven, not Yehuda. The Torah gives credit to Reuven for saving Yosef. Amazing thing. Once again, we see standing up to the plate, front stage, the surprise of the year, the surprise of the last 5,077 years, at least for me. Reuven, he saves his brother Yosef. Of all the other brothers, tremendous power, tremendous attributes to the brothers, he's the one that saves. And we go on. Joseph tells his brothers, I didn't know that you had another brother left in the land of Israel. His name is Binyamin. Now, I'm going to send a few of you guys back home to the land of Israel. You guys go back to the land of Israel. In the meantime, I'm going to keep as a lateral in prison Shimon. And, you guys go back and you bring me back Benjamin. Okay, so they take off. They go back. Who stands up to the plate first? Once again, the amazing Reuven. Reuven gets up there, stands up to the plate, and he says, listen, Dad, Jacob, I take responsibility for taking Benjamin to Egypt and bringing him back. And if I don't keep my word, if I'm not able to do what I promised that I do, to guard over and to protect Benjamin, to bring him there and bring him back, if I don't stand by my word, you could kill my two sons. Amazing thing. Reuven is willing to lose his two sons if he does not keep his word to bring back Benjamin to the land of Israel, to his father. Amazing thing. Think about that. There's nothing in the world more tragic than a father that has to say, Kaddish on his children. The way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world, the way of nature, is that the children say a Kaddish, the mourner's prayer, for their parents, for their elders, not the other way around. I mean, this is something that in my family, an aunt of mine at a young age, 16, was in a car accident and she was killed. A great aunt of mine, she was killed when she was 16 in a car accident. Her mom never would leave the house. She would stay in the house all the time. She was just like, from that time on till she passed away herself, she was just mourning all the time. She was in her house. It was dark in the house. That was her life. I mean, it's terrible, We're talking this class being dedicated, this series being dedicated to Rabbi Binyamin and his wife Talia. So an amazing thing, the Rebbetzin Kahana bearing her husband, Rabbi Meir, and her son and daughter-in-law. There's nothing more tragic than this. And this Reuven is an amazing figure here. Tremendous sacrifice. Listen, you could do, because we know that a parent would rather give himself. So here Reuven is going overboard. If he would have said, you know what, take my life, okay. A person many times is willing to give himself. But they will go to the end to protect their children. They will take a bullet in order that their children will not get hit. And here, he's going way beyond that. He's saying, take, not me, something much, much more precious, my two kids. An amazing sacrifice. Next time we meet up is when Jacob, before he passes away at the age of 147 in Egypt, he blesses his children. He blesses his children, and the first person to receive a blessing or harsh words, it's kind of a mix. According to our sages, there was a mix. There was some blessing, also some very, very harsh words. But we see from this blessing and from these harsh words that Reuven because of a certain act that he did, which was, so to speak, to sleep with his father's midwife, Bilhah, he loses 3 crowns. 3 majestic assignments in the world. Number 1, he was supposed to be king. He loses that to Judah. He was supposed to be a priest. He loses that to his brother Levi. To some degree, he's the first, to some degree, he loses his status of a firstborn, and remember the words, we'll get into it later. To some degree, he loses his status, Reuven's status of a firstborn. He loses it to Joseph. Now it's an amazing thing. The lesson here, we'll get into it later, but just on surface, let's understand, let's put the cards on the table. If you think about it, when you think about sacrifice, when you think about strength, about Jewish militancy, when you think about being zealous, when you think about sacrifice, responsibility, look at these figures. Judah, when it was time to cross over, the river in Egypt, sea in Egypt, it was from the tribe of Judah wanted to sanctify God's name. When you look at the spies that were sent, it was Caleb ben Yefuneh from the tribe of Judah that stood up. Always when you see in this week's portion to stand up, they didn't know it was Joseph, but who stood up to fight and protect his brothers, it was Judah that stood up and endangered himself. Vayigash elav Yehuda. That's who really, if you look at Judah, you could see that potential and that greatness was potentially in Reuven. It was really it's the source of the energy of Judah is really from Reuven. Number 2, when you think about zealousness, you think about Levi. You think about them in the city of Shechem, Shimon and Levi. You think about them in the time of the sin of the calf. They said, when Moses cried out, whoever is with God, come join me. Who joined him? Only the tribe of Levi. So when you think about Hanukkah, you think about the tribe of Levi, the Kohanim. Where is their source? The source is really Reuven. Just because of this slight, minuscule infraction, that sin, that we will investigate if it was a sin at all. Because of this tiny, where's the microscope here? To see there was some kind of lack of something here. So Reuven loses a part of who he really is, and he gives it over. He gives part of himself over to Judah, he gives part of himself over to Levi, and he gives part of himself over to Joseph. An amazing thing, Joseph. Also, standing up to the plate. And, okay, moving right along. Next time we meet up with the tribe of Reuven, and his tribe, we see that when Jewish people erected the tabernacle in the desert in the second year of our wandering of the desert. So on the first day of Nisan, which was the opening day of the tabernacle, so all the tribes except for Levi had their big day, and each day was their own holiday. So the number four position was Reuven. Before him, batting first on the first day of Nisan, first day of the opening of the tabernacle, was Yehuda. The second day was Issachar, and the third day was Zvulun. The sages explain this order. The first three, this first group of three, Judah, Issachar, and Zvulun, they are all connected. They are all connected to passing on the Torah for the Jewish people. We know, for example, that Jacob, he sends down Yehuda into Egypt and to set up a learning facility for the Jewish people, a spiritual center for the Jewish people. He chooses, of all of his sons, he chooses the tribe of Yehuda more than others. We know that after that we have Issachar, who more than any other tribe represents Torah. They are considered to be the leading figures of learning of Torah. The tribe, from the tribe of Yisachar, Yodea Bina. They were extremely knowledgeable in Torah and leap years and the Jewish calendar. They are the forebearers of the Torah, and the supporters of Torah, of course, are Zvulun. In fact, there was an agreement between Yisachar and Zvulun that Yisachar would learn Torah and Zvulun would participate in various business dealing in order to support Yisachar, that he could just dedicate himself to learning the Torah. So when we open up the doors of the tabernacle, the lesson here is first comes the Torah. That's the first leg of a Jew, is the leg of Torah. So now we have to understand where the next representative is actually Reuven. We will see as the class proceeds. We will see what is the connection. Why is Reuven the first tribe after the bearers of the Torah foundation? What does his foundation represent? We shall see. The last place we see in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, the last place that we hear about Reuven is during the times before Moses passes away on the 7th day of Adar. He blesses the tribe of Reuven with a very interesting blessing. He says, Yechi Reuven ve'al yamot v'hi metav mispar, that the tribe of Reuven shall exist, shall continue to live, and he shall not die, and he will be included amongst the numbers of the Jewish people. Once again, we will dissect, we will check out what the message here behind the blessing of Moses. So we see something very interesting. Just a side note, a footnote here, that various tribes that received a harsh message from their father Jacob, for example, Reuven, who got a mixed message. Some was positive, some was negative. Shimon and Levi. When it comes to the end of the 5 books of Moses, we see a totally different picture here. We see a very positive blessing that Moses hands over, which is very interesting. It's an important subject to delve into. But we definitely see a changeover from between Jacob's angle and Moses' angle. Okay, so now in the few minutes that we have left in today's class, we're going to take it, as they say, take it from the top. We'll take it from the top, and we're going to delve in to each part that we mentioned where we meet up with Reuven to learn more about his banner, his message that he brought into the world, which is a message for all of us, especially those students of Rabbis Meir and Binyamin Kahana. So, take it from the top. We have here a young boy named Reuven who goes out and he's looking for this special skula, a special plant that will enable, God willing, will enable his mother to give birth. And this plant is actually given to his mother, and then all of a sudden, from left field, Rachel, Leah's sister, comes and she says, "Hey, what's going on over here?" And Leah explains that my son Reuben has gone out. By the way, just to show you another point that to understand the sacrifice, the tremendous sacrifice, and standing up to the plate and responsibility that Reuben represents, I'm not going to get into the whole subject, but we should just know that for a person to go into a field and take this specific plant, uproot it, there was a physical danger for this action. Once again, I'm not getting into all the details. You could look it up yourselves. But there was a tremendous physical danger for those that participated in this kind of activity. In fact, the child that is born shortly after, born after this incident, his emblem is first of all, his name was Yisachar, and his emblem was a donkey. And the fact is that there was ruckus outside because of the fact that the donkey had entered the field and started uprooting the plant, which killed the donkey. And that's how, very interesting. So from that plant, so the donkey passed away, and eventually, shortly after that, Leah gave birth to a son, Yisachar, and his symbol, his emblem is that donkey. Tremendous sacrifice. You know, like the donkey gave his life for Reuben. Okay, so listen to the words of the Arizal. What happens is that after Reuven goes and he endangers himself to find this various plant, he's, according to the Arizal, he's the founding father of bringing the Mashiach, Okay, the two messiahs into the world. Why? Because, as we stated a few minutes ago, the top Torah scholar of the Jewish people is represented by Yisachar. So he represents the spiritual Messiah, which is Mashiach ben David, the Messiah from the lineage of David. On the other hand, shortly after this incident where Rachel and Leah discuss who Jacob will spend time with, so from shortly after that, Rachel gives birth to Joseph. So once again, we have Reuven coming on the scene. He's trying to help his mother give birth. Rachel hears some noise of a donkey outside. It happens to die because of the danger involved in uprooting this plant. And they get together, they decide that for this special pregnant plant, Rachel will receive this special plant, and she in return will give her merit to being with Jacob over to her sister Leah. So from this, Leah, she gives birth to Yisachar, who is the forebearer of the Mashiach ben David. And because of this plant, Rachel becomes pregnant, and she has her first child, Joseph, who represents the Mashiach ben Yosef. So here's what the Arizal says, that it is Reuven that is responsible for bringing the light of the two messiahs into the world. From his mother's side, he brought in Yisachar, and from his aunt's side, from Rachel, he brought in Yosef, who of course is the Mashiach ben Yosef. So we have an amazing thing here, that the person responsible for is a 6-year-old kid, 7-year-old boy named Reuven, who endangers himself, who's responsible. He wants to help his mother out. He's only a kid, but he has tremendously broad shoulders, and he's taking responsibility. And he's endangering himself, and he's sacrificing. He's one of these true activists. And he brings, with such behavior, when there's sacrifice, when there's persons taking responsibility, when there's zealousness for a person's mother, these kinds of actions bring into the world, these actions bring us closer to the coming of the two messiahs, the first messiah being the Messiah of Yosef, and the last one being the Messiah of David. God willing, next week we'll continue our tremendous journey to see a newly discovered forefather of Jewish activism, militism, and zealousness.